Okay. Okay. Hi everyone. So today we'll be continuing on Git. I want us to be fully grounded on Git before we go back to HTML and the rest and start discussing on all those things, right? So in our last lesson we talked about Git and GitHub. We did a little setup on Git and then GitHub, and then we connected both of them together, right? So that's what we did in our last lesson. So in this particular lesson, we'll kind of like take this a little bit further. So here we'll be trying to talk about. I know we demonstrated like how to commit changes, but we'll base fully on those kind of stuff again in this particular lesson. Like I wanted to be elaborate here, kind of, because in the previous lesson it was just like in any part we did that. It also helps for us to be able to recap this so that we understand how Git works, because it's very important. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to be going into this project folder, and then I'll be creating the new project I'm going to be working on. I'm going to call it let me see. I'm going to call it type of animals, or animals. I'll just call it animals. That's the name of this project. So what I can do here is to try to open this project in VS Code or whichever editor I'm most comfortable using. So I'm just going to make use of VS Code here. I'll start VS Code. Yep. So I think you're fine with that. Now I'm going to try and open that particular folder that I'll be working from. Hold up. Open folder. Okay, I'll call it animals. Yeah. So I've selected this particular folder, and this is where I'll be working from probably in the next 2 to 3 lessons. Inside this particular folder, there's nothing inside this folder. As we can see, it's very much empty. Now if I want to make this a Git repository, I have to first of all run a command to tell my system that I want this to be a Git repository, and that command is git init. So we have this command, git init command. The git init command is going to initialize. So init is short form for initialize. It's going to initialize our repository. So when I hit enter, we get a message here where it says initialize empty git repository. Then I'd like to show you the folder of these animals, and we can see a .git file, a .git folder. So this particular stuff, once you see here, this tells us that this repository, we are going to be calling our project repository. So it's going to tell us that this repository is now a Git repository. So every change that we make is going to be monitored by Git. This file is not to be tampered with. You don't need to go inside it to do anything here. Just leave it as it is. If it's on a Linux system, you will not actually even see it. We just know it exists here. We know that the Git repository exists, and then we are cool with that. We can actually work with this, right? Now there are a couple of things I need to talk about when we're working with Git. We have what we call branches. So branches, Git is kind of like a tree structure, and the branches are something like where we work on, or a particular feature we want to work on. Take for instance, if I want to work on a feature to name animals, right? We have to create a branch. I'll probably call the feature name animals. If I wanted to fix something, then I might need to create a branch called bug something something just to fix that particular stuff, and the rest like that. So Git, in Git we make use of branches to work on features, right? In such a way that in a distributed team we can all work on different features without tampering with what the next person is working on, right? And then when we are done, we can go and put everything that we've done back into the main branch. So one of the things I would like to do here is to see the branches that this particular repository currently have. Let me say git branch. I think it's minus a. Okay, hold on. So I'm still not seeing it, but I can see from here that we have the master branch. So you either see master branch or main branch. I think there's a way I need to set this to actually be main, because most people don't use master again. You mainly see main branches nowadays. So our current branch is our main branch. So this is how Git works. We have what we call the branches. We have what we call the working directory, and we have what we call the staging area, right? So currently I'm inside a branch called master, and anytime I make any change, I need to first of all add that change to the staging area. So it goes something like this, like I'm inside my branch, I write a particular file, that's I'm making a particular change there. So when I make that change, I need to add this change that I've made to the staging area. When I add that change to the staging area, right, the next thing I need to do is, if I'm fine with all the changes that I've made, then I should be able to verify that I'm cool with this and I want to commit these changes. So on your local system, your changes will be saved there, just on your local system. So the way we do this is, if I want to move from my current branch, right, to the staging area, I use a git add command. I add those changes, and then it goes to the staging area. Then I use git commit command, and when I use a git commit command, I'm going to actually also give a message to describe briefly the changes that are made on the changes that have been made on that particular file, or let me not say file, let me say snapshot, because I might not change a particular file, I might change a set of files. So we are going to be demonstrating this, but one of the first commands I would like us to see is git status, because it tells us what's going on in our system. So when I run the git status command, so I can see currently that we are on the main branch, and it's telling us there is no commit yet to make, nothing to commit. And then it kind of gives us like a little bit of command in case we want to add something that we want to track, and that is the git add command that we spoke about previously. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is, I'm going to be creating a file. I'm going to call it info.txt. I'm not going to use the command line to create a file. I'm just going to use I'm going to use VS Code here. So I'm just going to click on new file here. I'm going to call it info.txt. So this is a text file, and then I'm going to write git status command to see if anything, to see if there's going to be a different message, to see if there's anything that needs to be tracked. So when we run the git status command, it still tells us that we are on the master branch and there's still nothing to commit yet. No commit yet. But then it tells us that we have a particular file that we are not yet tracking. So that file is called info.txt, right? The only way we want to be able to track this particular file now is to use the git add command and then rewrite the name of the file. If you look at this particular symbol here, you can see that VS Code tries to make this very wonderful for us. It uses the U line there to tell us that this particular file is untracked. So the only way we can try to add this particular file to the staging area is to use the git add command. So I'm going to be doing this git add and the name of the file, git add info.txt. This particular command we have here is going to add our file. I'm going to do that and create 2 more files to demonstrate that there's also other commands that we can actually use. So git add info.txt first, and when I click on that, I can run the git status command to find out the status of what I just did. So I have git status and I press enter. So this time around we can see that we are still on the master branch. There's no commit to be made yet because we are not yet in the staged area. We just moved our file into the staging area. So it says no commits yet, changes to be committed. It's trying to prompt us on something that we need to do, right? The changes that we need to commit is the info.txt. We've moved it from this particular branch that we're working in our working directory. We've moved it to the staging area. So currently it's in the staging area, but it's not yet staged. If we want to stage it, we need to commit this particular file. So key takeaway from here is that, first of all, when we initialize a Git repository using the git init command, it creates a .git folder which we are not to tamper with. That tells us that we already have like the Git database, the Git tracking system on that particular project or repository that we are working on. So we can start making changes to our file and tracking those changes. The second thing we need to note is we have what we call branches, which is where we are going to be working from. Everybody is going to be creating a branch to work with. If you have a feature you're building, you're going to be working in a very specific branch for that particular feature. Now, when you create files or you make changes, you need to move those changes to the staging area using the git add command. And the way to verify where the particular area the file is, you use the git status command. The git status command is going to explain to you where you've made changes, whether there are any changes you need to commit, whether there's something you need to move to the staging area. Now you use the git add command to move stuff from your current working directory to the staging area, and that's what we've done. But I'm going to create 2 more files which I'll still delete. I just want to use another command to add from the untracked place to our staging directory. So the next thing I'm going to do, as I said, is to just create these 2 files. I'll call this one info1.txt, and then I'm going to name another one info2.txt. So you can see that these 2 are untracked. So if I run the git status command, I'll expect git status to tell me that we have two files that we're not tracking yet, in case I want to move it from the working directory right to the staging area. So we have two files untracked. We have one file that we've not yet committed. We've never run any command to push this to be able to stage this, right? So right now I'm going to use a command to move these two files, the info1 and the info2, into the staging area. So I'm going to use the git add and this dot command, saying it means this dot is like, in regular expression, it's kind of me saying I'm trying to catch, or let me not say it's regular expression, but this dot is kind of like saying everything inside this directory I want to add it to the staging area. So when I hit on this, we can see that all of them are AAA, and then I can see git status now shows me that we have 3 files that we have actually moved to the staging area, but we've not staged yet. We've not staged these changes, like we've not committed these changes is the right language to use. So we'll move them to the staging area, but we have not actually staged these changes. So how are we going to do that? If we want to actually commit these changes, if I'm fine with all the changes that I've made in this particular file, the next thing I can actually do is to use the git commit command, and this is going to actually save all my changes. It's going to save changes. I'm going to write a message, and our message should be like, the message we should be writing should not be in past tense, but should be kind of like in present tense. So like create new files, or create info text, create info1 text, create info2 text, remove, not removed. You're not giving instruction of what the person needs to do, but you're just writing something in the present tense of what you are doing at that particular point in time. So this particular one, I will say create info files, and then I'm going to click on enter, and then we have this nice message says create info files, which is what we just did. 3 files change, 0 insertions, 0 deletions. So we can see create mode for these 3 particular files. So we have actually cemented our changes. We've committed our changes because we are fine with it. Like we are ready to, in Git terms, we are ready to push it, but we're not pushing it yet. This is just us validating that we are fine with everything we've done for now. So when we are working on project, we would like to work incrementally, and so that if there is any fault along the line, we will know which part of our commit we can go to make those changes. So what I'm going to do right now is to try to add some content into info.txt, and then we'll still run this git status command to see what happens. So inside here, I'm going to write this file is going to contain the in small letter. This file is going to contain the name of certain animals. Okay, and I'm going to save this. So when I run the git status command, I would like to give you a moment to think about what's going to happen. If I run the git status command now, are we going to see any changes? Is there going to be any untracked file? Is there going to be anything that we need to commit? Bear in mind that we haven't done git add, right? So let's just go ahead and run the git status command. So we will need to actually stage this because there is a modification in this file. So we can see there's changes not staged for. We're still in the main master branch. It's what of this with to say. You see, no changes added to commit, so there's nothing we can commit here. But it also says here that changes not staged for commit yet. That's this info.txt. So the info.txt file, needs to actually be staged. We need to actually use the git add command, right, to move it to the staging area, and then we need to move it to the staging area before we are then able to commit our changes as we've done before. But we can see a new symbol here. Previously, when we created files, we see U, which was telling us that it was untracked. When we used the git add command, then we saw A, which was telling us that that particular file now was now in the staging area. But this time around, since we've already added this to the staging area, we are seeing M, which is telling us that that particular file now has been modified. And so we just need to use the git add command again. I'm going to be using the dot instead of just writing the name of the file to add this particular one right now. And then I can use the git status to see. Let me split the screen so you see the difference between both messages when I use git status. So I have git status here. So right now we can see here that it had changes not staged for commit info.txt, but here we can see that we have changes to be committed. So this has actually been added to the staging area. We just need to just do what? To commit this particular change. I just wanted us to see that clearly. Let me delete this so the other one is now bigger. So as usual, we can actually do the git commit -m command and then write a message, and I'll say add title to info.txt file, and then we have that everything is fine and good. So one of the things we can actually see is we might want to be able to check the history of our commits, everything that we've done on this particular file. And to be able to do that, we can use the git log command. I love to use it this way. I love to write one line, but let me do the git log first. So we can just see the git log command. It's kind of like shows us the history of the changes that has been made to this particular file, and we just have only 2 changes. So the first change that we have here was made by April 8th, 21/21/08. This is the particular commit, right? The second change, the first change had the create info files. You can see the comment here. Now the second change is this. It was made I think this 7 minutes later, and then add title to info.txt file. Usually when I want to run this, because I have like a lot of commit messages, what I usually try to do is do git log one line, and I just say it in one line this way. We have this particular stuff that looks like a hash, we have the we have the commit message here. Yeah. So remember previously I said that I don't think I explained that very well. When I talked something about I said something about Git saving snapshots of everything that we are doing, and I think I need to buttress that point just a little bit. So remember when we had a change here, and then we made we had this file, we committed this file, and then we created these two files, and then we did a git add command and a git commit command. It's very easy for us to think that since this particular file had already been committed, so what git just did was to just add this particular to the working directory. But that's not how git work. This is not super important for you to know, but it's also good for you to know that what git actually does each time you do a commit is it takes the snapshot of your current history of your current file of what you have. So if I have everything here this way, if I've added this the first time, I've committed this, and I created new file, even when I'm committing those particular one, it's going to take a snapshot of this tree, or the current state of these tree files. It's going to take that snapshot, and then it's going to commit it to the Git repository. Now, every commit that you make, each time you commit a particular change, Git is going to create this particular hash. Like, you're going to have funny symbols like this. Let me not call it funny symbols, but you're going to have a hash, and this is what's going to identify the change that you have made. Remember that we are on the master branch, and right now when I do git log command, you can see two commit messages. So this is how it happens. The first, let me run that git log again. The commit message is actually longer than this, 3 4 whatever. If I don't use the one line, we will see the normal commit message. So when we did a git commit the first time, Git created this commit message, right, and moved our master branch to point to this particular commit message. So the first time we made git commit, we only had this in our history, just this particular one, and our master branch, the head was pointing to this particular commit message on that particular master branch. Now, when we made another change, and then we did a git commit, Git also created a separate hash again, another set of characters to store this new snapshot, the current state of our repository, and then it moved the head of this master branch from this particular commit message to this commit message. So it's currently here, it's no longer here. And this is very important for you to know, because it's possible for you to go back to a previous commit to make changes. And if you go back to a previous commit, you will not be able to see your updated changes. You'll be able to see the previous change. And so this is why I'm trying to explain to you how the master branch is being updated. So in case, or for example, if I added something else here and I said carnivorous animals, and I wrote lion, and I wrote dog, and I wrote tiger, and I want to actually stage this. I have to first of all move it to the staging area. So we're going to use the command that we're used to now, git add dot. Oh, I haven't saved I haven't saved this particular file. So even if you write, let me see git status, what's going to show here. So nothing. Our tree is very clean. There's no change at all. I didn't press Ctrl S, so I'm pressing Ctrl S to save now. Now I'm going to run git status again, and so we can see that we have a modified file, and it says changes not staged for commit. So we have change. We have a particular stage change yet, but we haven't actually moved it to the staging area. So the first thing we need to do is to move it to the staging area using the git add command. So we've done this. Now I'm going to run the git status command, and the git status command now says that we have changes that we need to actually commit, and that's the info.txt file. What I'm going to do now is to use the git commit, and I'm going to write my commit message. My commit message is that add some names of carnivorous animals. So if we look at this, it says one file change, 8 insertions, and 1 deletion. So our git log command is going to show us 3 different commits. The first one, the second one, and now the third one. We have a new commit here which starts from 0, and now this is where the head and our master branch is pointing to. This is our current snapshot, and it has all this written inside it. So for today, I think I would like to stop here to just demonstrate this particular stuff. So subsequently, we can go further into more of the git commands and understanding how git works. Yeah. All right. Thank you.